In the last video, I told you about the mind-body lag, how your conscious mind can understand you're safe while your body still screams danger. And I showed you why. Your brain doesn't update predictions based on thoughts. It updates based on experiences. So if you want to eliminate anxiety at the body level, you need to give your nervous system new experiential data. Not through years of real-world exposure, through strategic mental simulation. I told you I used vivid imagination to eliminate childhood phobias in a matter of weeks. That I ran maybe close to 100 mental simulations until my body's fear response disappeared completely. Today, I'm giving you the exact protocol, step by step, no fluff, just the mechanics of how to reprogram your nervous system through conscious mental rehearsal. This works for phobias. It works for social anxiety. It works for trauma responses, because the mechanism is universal. If your brain can't distinguish between vividly imagined and real experiences, you can feed it new data deliberately. Let's get into it. Before we get to the steps, you need to understand 3 principles that make this work. Principle 1, emotional intensity matters more than duration. Your amygdala doesn't respond to calm, rational visualization. It responds to emotional charge. A single vivid, emotionally intense 30-second simulation is more powerful than 10 minutes of peaceful imagery. You need to feel something. Heart rate changes, bodily sensations, emotional activation. If you're running simulations and feeling nothing, you're not engaging the system that needs updating. Principle 2, incompatible states cannot coexist. This is critical. Fear and dominance are mutually exclusive in your nervous system. Submission and aggression, threat and power, helplessness and control. You cannot simultaneously embody both. This is why imagining yourself as powerful, dominant, in control works so effectively. You're not just reducing fear, you're installing a state that makes fear impossible. Principle 3, repetition creates reconsolidation. One simulation won't do it. 10 might not be enough. Your brain needs sufficient evidence to update its predictions. This is Bayesian updating. Your brain weighs new data against prior beliefs. The stronger the prior belief, the deeper the fear, the more evidence you need to override it. Expect to do this 50, 100, maybe 200 times for deep-rooted fears. You'll know you're done when the physical response changes. Here's the step-by-step process. Step 1, identify the specific trigger with precision. Don't be vague. Social anxiety is too broad. Get specific. Walking into a room of strangers at a networking event. My father's raised voice. Seeing a dog off-leash in the park. Receiving critical feedback from my boss. The more precise the trigger, the more targeted your intervention. Write it down. 1 sentence. Concrete and specific. Step 2, map the prediction error. Your brain is miscalculating. Figure out exactly how. Ask yourself, what threat is my brain overestimating? What does it think will happen? What capacity is my brain underestimating? What does it think I can't handle? Write it out like this. My brain predicts, if I speak up in the meeting, everyone will judge me. I'll be humiliated, and I'll lose all credibility. The reality is, most people aren't paying that much attention, and even if someone disagrees, I can handle it without falling apart. This clarifies exactly what data needs updating. Step 3, design your simulation scenarios. This is where most people go wrong. They imagine calm, peaceful resolutions. That's not what works. You need scenarios that are emotionally intense, heart rate increases, you feel something, visceral and embodied, physical sensations, not just thoughts. Over the top if needed, exaggeration is fine. Remember me fighting imaginary dogs. Here's the key. You need to embody the opposite emotional state from fear. If your fear is about being dominated, imagine dominating. If your fear is about being rejected, imagine being the one who decides who's worthy. If your fear is about being helpless, imagine being powerful. Specific scenario types. For confrontation/conflict fears, imagine yourself calmly but powerfully standing your ground. Imagine the other person backing down or losing composure while you stay centered. Imagine yourself walking away with complete indifference to their reaction. For social/performance fears, imagine yourself commanding the room with ease. Imagine making a mistake and recovering smoothly, even making it funny. Imagine people being drawn to you, seeking your approval. For trauma-based triggers, imagine your adult self protecting your child self. Imagine confronting the source of trauma from a position of complete power. Imagine the situation reversed, you in control, them powerless. The goal: create felt experiences where you are powerful, capable, in control. Step 4. Run the simulation with full engagement. Find a quiet space. Close your eyes. Don't just think about it. Experience it. Engage all sensory modalities. Visual, see it vividly. Colors, faces, environment. Auditory, hear voices, sounds, your own confident tone. Kinesthetic, feel your body posture, your movements, your power. Emotional, let yourself feel the emotions. Confidence, control, even aggression if appropriate. This should take 30 seconds to 2 minutes per simulation. You're not meditating. You're not relaxing. You're creating a visceral experience that your amygdala processes as real. If your heart rate doesn't change, if you don't feel something shift in your body, you're not doing it intensely enough. Step 5. Repeat until physical response changes. This is non-negotiable. One simulation won't rewire your nervous system. Here's the protocol. Minimum 10 simulations per session. Sessions, daily or every other day. Total repetitions, 50-100 plus, depending on fear depth. Track your progress. Keep a simple log. Date, number of reps, intensity of physical response during real trigger. You're looking for decreased heart rate, reduced muscle tension, less avoidance impulse. You'll know it's working when the mental simulation starts feeling less charged, the fear memory is updating. Real-world exposure triggers less physical response. You notice yourself naturally behaving differently. Step 6. Test in low-stakes reality. Once you've done 30 to 50 simulations, test it. Find a low-stakes version of the trigger and expose yourself. Don't wait until you feel ready. You're gathering data, not proving yourself. Notice, what's the physical response now? How quickly do you recover? Can you stay present instead of dissociating or avoiding? If the response is still strong, you need more simulations. The body needs more evidence. If the response is noticeably reduced, you're on the right track. Keep going. For those dealing with complex trauma, layered anxiety, or deeply ingrained patterns, here are advanced applications. Technique 1, the compassionate power loop. For those with self-worth wounds or abuse history, imagine your current adult self encountering your child self in the traumatic moment. But don't just comfort the child. Protect them with force. Imagine yourself physically standing between the child and the threat, confronting the abuser with complete dominance, removing the child from danger with absolute authority, telling your child self, "You're safe now, I've got you, and I'm strong enough to handle this." This integrates both power and compassion. You're updating the helplessness while building internal security. Technique 2, the identity reversal. For people-pleasing, codependency, or enmeshment patterns, imagine the dynamic completely reversed. If you learn to manage your parents' emotions, imagine them managing yours. If you learn to shrink to make others comfortable, imagine them adjusting to accommodate you. If you learned your needs don't matter, imagine everyone prioritizing your needs first. This isn't about revenge. It's about your nervous system experiencing the opposite data. Technique 3, the absurd amplification. When the fear feels too reasonable to override, make the scenario ridiculous, over the top, cartoonish. Fighting imaginary dogs worked for me because it was so visceral and extreme that my limbic system couldn't ignore it. If you're afraid of public speaking, imagine yourself as a rock star commanding a stadium. If you're afraid of rejection, imagine yourself as a king or queen dismissing petitioners. If you're afraid of failure, imagine yourself intentionally failing spectacularly and the world not ending. The absurdity creates emotional distance from the fear while still engaging the system. Technique 4. The layered protocol for complex PTSD. If you have multiple trauma layers, don't try to tackle everything at once. Start with the most accessible fear. Build evidence that the protocol works. Let your nervous system learn, oh, we can actually update these predictions. Then move to the next layer. Each successful update increases your belief in the process, which increases your engagement, which increases effectiveness. I'm doing the simulations, but nothing's changing. Check these. Are you emotionally engaged or just thinking about it? Are you embodying power/control or just imagining feeling better? Have you done enough repetitions? Less than 30 is probably too few. Are you testing in real-world scenarios to gather feedback? The simulations feel fake or forced. Good. They should feel artificial at first. You're deliberately installing new data. It's supposed to feel constructed. The fakeness will fade as your brain starts accepting the new pattern. I feel worse after doing this. You might be activating trauma without providing the resolution. Make sure your simulations end with you in a position of power, safety, or control. Don't just relive the fear. Transform it in the simulation. If this persists, you may need professional support to process the trauma before using this protocol. It worked for a while, but the fear came back. You haven't done enough repetitions for permanent reconsolidation. Old patterns are deeply grooved. New patterns need more reinforcement. Go back to daily simulations until the new response becomes automatic. This feels too simple. How can imagination change real neurobiology? Because your amygdala can't distinguish between vividly imagined and real experiences. fMRI studies show imagined and real experiences activate the same neural circuits. Your skepticism is cognitive. Your amygdala doesn't share it. Just run the experiment and track the data. How do you know this is actually working? Immediate indicators during simulations. Emotional activation decreases over time. Scenarios feel less charged. You can run simulations without avoidance or dissociation. Physical sensations during simulation shift from fear to power. Short-term indicators, 2 to 4 weeks. Reduced anticipatory anxiety before triggering situations. Faster recovery when anxiety does spike. Less avoidance behavior. You stop canceling plans, dodging situations. Long-term indicators, 6 to 12 weeks. Physical fear response substantially reduced or eliminated. Trigger situations no longer dominate your thoughts. You notice yourself behaving differently automatically, no willpower needed. The ultimate metric. You encounter the real-world trigger and your body stays calm. Not because you're suppressing the response, because the response isn't there anymore. This protocol works because you're working with your neurobiology, not against it. You're not fighting anxiety. You're not managing symptoms. You're not coping. You're providing your prediction system with new data until it recalculates. And here's what makes this different from therapy. You don't need permission. You don't need a professional. You don't need to wait for someone else to fix you. You need understanding of the mechanism, willingness to run the experiment, discipline to repeat until it works. This is psychological sovereignty, not because you're doing it alone, but because you're doing it deliberately. You're the programmer. Your nervous system is the code, and you have direct access to the input. Here's what I want you to do. Step 1, pick one specific trigger. Write it down. Step 2, map the prediction error. What's your brain miscalculating? Step 3, design 3 simulation scenarios where you embody power, control, or dominance. Step 4, run 10 simulations today. Visceral, intense, emotionally engaged. Step 5, track it. Date, number of reps, intensity of real-world response. Do this for 2 weeks. Then test it in a low-stakes real situation. If you do this and it doesn't work, I want to know. Comment below with what you tried and what happened. But if you do this and it works, if you feel your nervous system shift, if the physical response changes, if you find yourself naturally behaving differently, share that too. Because this isn't theory. This is replicable neuroscience. And the more people who run this experiment and report results, the more we validate what's actually possible when you understand your own nervous system. Next video, we'll go deeper into the neuroscience of why this works, memory reconsolidation, predictive coding, and the specific brain structures involved. But for now, run the protocol, track the data, become the programmer,